We're going to talk about the proper way to fight with a punch shield. This is a 20-inch punch. This is a 20-inch punch. I normally fight with an 18. This is a little bigger than I'm used to, which is not really a problem. All the principles are going to stay the same until you get something into the 25 or 26 range, at which point it becomes more like a static shield use than a highly mobile small punch use, and they're very different styles. So what we're going to talk about today is a small punch. It may not apply to a large punch, especially if you're using something like a large tower shield as a punch, which is really just sort of a waste of time and a piece of trash, and you should probably learn to fight. But, okay, so what we're going to cover is just basic stance for the moment. And if I wasn't using a punch, my basic single sword stance, and I apologize for the distance, we're a little crammed in here. My basic single sword stance would be something like this. Okay, so I'd be sword foot forward. I have my shield, I have my sword about middle distance of my body, and I'm blocking her ability to swing top. I'm blocking her ability to swing mid. I'm blocking her ability to swing bottom. It's all pretty well covered. Now, I'm going to add a punch shield to this. Right. So if we're going to add a punch shield to this, the easiest thing to do, just imagine we don't have one, and then just treat this as an indestructible hand block. Okay? So whatever my hand would normally do fighting a single sword, that's what we're going to do with this punch shield. So if she swings from my shoulder, and I would hand block her like this, then my punch shield's going to go there. Okay? If she swings from my offside, I hand block it like that, my punch shield's going to go here. Okay? If she swings from my hip, again, my punch shield is going to cover that. So if you think about fighting small punches, fighting with an indestructible hand block, that's pretty much how it works. So go ahead and go shoulder. Go to the same side. Go ahead and throw cross hip. Okay, go ahead and try step. Alright. Now, what this does is it gives us an opportunity that we can leave ourselves open, bait, force them to attack, then clear them out while still being able to throw them attacks. So for instance, just like if we have a hand block, if she throws from my cross shoulder, because I'm baiting like this, okay, I've got her sword completely controlled with my punch shield. I've blocked myself here. It's really easy to throw that repose. Same thing if she throws same side. I didn't block it here, close to my body, although I could have. I blocked it out here, where I can actively take control of her sword and hit her. And if she throws cross hip, same thing. Blocked it here. I kept this one reasonably close to my body just because it's the length that my arm can extend. And hit. And that's really all there is to it from a basic standpoint. Again, it's just, think about it like an indestructible hand block, and it's going to work pretty well for you. Most of us know how that model works, so it's an easy thing to adapt to this type of combat. There's a couple of dirty tricks you can do that are actually pretty useful. I'm going to cover those real quick as well. So, one of the things that we can do when we're aggressing is we can actually put our shield farther out than our sword. Okay, this causes people to focus on our shield and will oftentimes cause them to follow the shield. So if I'm out like this and I turn a little bit, this enables me to snipe this shoulder or to snipe this inside forearm if they have other gear, which is pretty likely. The other thing that having the shield this far out allows us to do is it allows us to aggress and step in to close distance without actually appearing to move. So if we're in the middle of a fight and my shield is the closest thing to her, my shield doesn't move, there's a really good chance that since this did not move closer to her, even though my body has, and therefore my reach is extended, she will not realize that I've actually moved. It doesn't process as quick. What we tend to do is we tend to focus on the closest thing to us, and we tend to judge distance based on that. That's my threat range. So by making the closest thing to her my shield, and then bending my arm as I step in, I buy myself a free half step of range that she's not prepared to deal with. So if we're doing that in combat, we've got here, we step, and we can throw big wraps. This is especially useful if your opponent's using a shield, classic strap shield or something like that. So you can step here, you can step, you can go here, and come over the top, and they're still focused on that shield, and you get a good wrap. It's also really useful anytime, go ahead and switch to your board. It's also really useful anytime you can get a strap shield to throw for a high quadrant. If I can get them to throw high here or high here, it's very easy for me to lock them out because of the way that their strap shield works. So go ahead and throw a high cross. Okay, and just for reference, when we say throw a high cross, it's a high shot that is cross. It's not this. It's a shot that's got its own things you can do with it. But a high cross is just a high quadrant cross shot. So in this case, it would be just a flat cross. Go ahead. All right. So her shield is now obscuring how far she can come over with that. She can't go any farther that direction, really. And if I do this right, I can make sure she can't come back down conveniently either, right? Because I can follow it down, and now she's got to pull through the plane of my shield in order to attack me. So she can't come any further across to throw shots because of her shield. And she can't really come back because of my shield. And in the interim, what I can do is attack that arm all day long. If she manages to get that arm down into position to block, I can still come under here and throw over his hips. And then if she actually manages to get all the way around somehow, block, block, I can step, leave my shield where it is, step into it, and come over. Because I'm not hindered by this, and I can keep my shield pinning her while I attack, which is something you can't really do with a punch shield, because what would happen is in order to have my shield here, my body would have to be here, which obviously is not really practical. So this is very good as an offensive jamming weapon too. So I can step in here, put this here, and now she's got problems. So that's pretty good. Just as a standard lead, just as sort of a bread and butter opener, so you start like this, so you've got your sword out and your shield out. Okay? You step, you drop your sword, you drop your shield, you extend your shoulder, like you're going to throw this cross hip. And what they're going to do is they're going to do this, they're going to block, bring that shield down, they're going to throw a cross. Okay, great. What we're going to do is we're just going to do this. In order for them to block that hit, which is what we're telegraphing, their shield has to come down. In order for them to strike us, their arm has to be past it. The only way to throw that shot is in this configuration, and we're completely happy with that. We can literally just hit that multiple times before they can do anything about it. So we start here, we step in like we're throwing an over-exaggerated cross, cross hip, they throw, we block, we hit them. You can do that to people in the ditch line or in tournaments all day long. It's just a really good standard opener. Another thing that you can do as a standard opener with a small punch that's more difficult to do with the strap shield is you really have a better variety of stabs you can do. So if I'm using a strap shield, especially if I'm shield foot forward, I've got a real hard time lining up these center shots. I've got to move my shield out of the way and tilt it before I can get these shots. If we're sword foot forward, and we've got a small punch, what we can do is it's actually easier for us to line these up because we can do things like come in here and stab without having to open ourselves up because the punch shield can come here. Is this possible with a strap shield? It is. It is something that you can do. But as you can see, it's a lot more difficult. It's much harder to get the angle, it's a lot more of a tell, and it exposes your shield side shoulder. But if we're doing it here, what we can do is just create an entirely new angle and stab in a way that we're still defended. The other thing that we can do is if we want to go for this deep wrap, which is a real convenient thing to do on borders, we can take this big step, choke up on our sword, get really close, and because we don't have to worry about their shield intersecting our shield, being able to cut off their angles, I'm actually making my shield right next to theirs, creating this big wall essentially, right? I can come in here and get real close and go around. And the real only option is to come through this little gap. And we can just keep following it around because we're mobile. So If we step in here and we get real close, we just think of trying to keep the center of your punch shield on the center of their hand, and they can't hit you. No matter where they go, as long as you can follow them, they can't hit you. All right, so that's kind of some basic punch shield concepts. Pick it up, try it, think of it as an indestructible hand block, and it should come pretty naturally. This is Mises, he's my puppy.